The moon of Vareth 9 floated in the cold darkness of space like a pale jewel. It was a neutral place, chosen carefully for this moment. No weapons were allowed here, no soldiers, only words and hope. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the center of a great circular chamber. The walls were made of glass, and through them she could see the stars. 12 alien species had sent their leaders to this place. They sat in tall chairs arranged in a half circle, looking down at her like judges. Elena was 53 years old. Her hair was gray at the temples, and her face showed the lines of someone who had spent her life trying to build bridges between worlds. She had learned 7 alien languages. She had signed peace treaties that saved millions of lives. Now she faced the hardest task of her career. 3 months ago, the Kethari hegemony had attacked human colonies without warning. 3 worlds burned: Proxima Station, New Helsinki, and the farming colony of Greendale. 15 million humans died in a single week. The survivors sent messages home that showed cities turned to ash and families running from fire that fell from the sky. Earth demanded answers. The Galactic Concord, the loose alliance that governed this part of the galaxy, called for peace talks. The Kethari agreed to meet. Elena looked at the Kethari delegation now. They were insect-like creatures, tall and thin, with hard shells the color of dried blood. Their eyes were black and showed nothing. Behind them sat the Draelith, ancient reptiles who had ruled empires before humans learned to make fire. The 2 species had been allies for 1,000 years. "We come here today with heavy hearts," Elena began. Her voice was steady, but inside, she felt the weight of every life lost. Humanity did not seek this conflict. We are a young species. We have been part of the galactic community for only 200 years. We came to the stars hoping to find friends, not enemies. She paused and looked at the other species in the room. The Villani, gentle giants with 4 arms who traded in medicines. The Sorathi, small and quick, known for their art and music. The Telknar, who breathed different air and watched through sealed helmets. These were neutral species. They had no stake in this war, but they would judge what happened here today. The Kethari claim we violated their space, Elena continued. We have reviewed every record, every ship log, every communication. We find no evidence of this, but we are willing to accept that there may have been misunderstandings. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small data device. I am authorized by the United Earth government to offer the following terms. First, we will withdraw all ships from the contested sectors. Second, we will share our agricultural technology freely with any species that wants it. Third, we will pay reparations to any Kethari citizens who can prove they were harmed by human actions. A murmur went through the chamber. These were generous terms, perhaps too generous. Humanity was offering to pay for a war it did not start. The Kethari overmind leaned forward. It was the largest of its kind, and when it spoke, its voice clicked and buzzed in a way that made Elena's skin crawl. You think words can wash away your crimes? The overmind said. You think your little gifts will make us forget what you are? Elena kept her face calm. I think that peace is worth more than pride. I think that our children deserve to grow up without fear. I think that we are stronger together than apart. Together, the overmind made a sound that might have been laughter. You are insects. You are nothing. Your species crawled out of the mud only yesterday, and you dare to speak to us as equals. The Draelith leader, an ancient creature covered in silver scales, raised one clawed hand. Perhaps we should hear more of what the humans offer. Their terms are interesting. Their terms are surrender dressed in pretty words. The overmind snapped. And surrender is exactly what we will have. Elena felt a cold feeling in her stomach. Something was wrong. The overmind was too confident, too sure of itself. Her communication device buzzed against her wrist. She glanced down at it and saw a message from her ship in orbit. 3 words that changed everything. Ships, decloaking, run. She looked up at the glass ceiling just in time to see the stars disappear. Black shapes moved across the sky, blocking out the light. Kethari warships, dozens of them. They had been hiding, waiting for this moment. You see, the overmind said, rising from its seat. We never wanted peace. We wanted you here. All of your leaders, all of your hope, in one place. The first explosion shook the building. Elena was thrown to the ground. Through the cracking glass, She could see human ships trying to flee, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Bright lines of fire cut across the darkness as her people died. She pulled herself up and activated her emergency communicator. It would broadcast to every human device in the system, and from there to Earth itself. "This is Ambassador Elena Vasquez," she said. Blood ran down her face from a cut on her forehead, but her voice did not shake. "The peace talks were a trap. The Kethari never intended to negotiate. They have murdered our delegation and destroyed our escort ships." Another explosion. Closer this time. The Kethari soldiers were moving through the building now, their weapons raised. "To the people of Earth, to every human colony, to everyone who calls themselves human, hear me now." Elena stood tall, even as death walked toward her. "They never wanted peace. They wanted us on our knees. Do not give them that satisfaction. Do not let my death be for nothing." The Overmind stopped in front of her. Its black eyes reflected her face back at her. "Any last words, insect?" Elena smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Yes, you have made a terrible mistake. You think you have broken us today, but you do not know my people. You do not know what we become when you take everything from us." The Overmind raised its weapon. "We become the thing that monsters fear." The transmission cut to static. Across human space, 12 billion people watched their ambassador die. They watched their hope turn to ash. They watched their enemies laugh and celebrate. And then something strange happened. No one screamed. No one cried. No one panicked. The humans simply looked at each other. Neighbors, strangers, old enemies who had fought each other for centuries. In that moment, all of their differences disappeared. All of their old hatreds faded away. What remained was something cold, something quiet, something that the Kethari, in all their ancient wisdom, had never seen before. Earth went silent, but it was not the silence of defeat. It was the silence of a species deciding, together, that mercy was no longer an option. The Kethari celebrated their victory and called their attack the end of the human threat. They were wrong. It was only the beginning. 3 weeks passed after the massacre at Vareth 9. The Kethari expected humanity to fall apart. They expected riots, chaos, and surrender. They expected messages begging for mercy. Instead, they received silence. Admiral Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the battleship Ironclad and looked out at the planet Earth. He was 61 years old, with short gray hair and a scar that ran from his left eye to his jaw. He had earned that scar fighting pirates in the outer colonies 20 years ago. Now he commanded the entire human fleet. What remained of it, anyway? "Status report," he said. His second in command, Captain Sarah Wells, pulled up a holographic display. "We have 47 combat-ready ships, sir. Another 30 are being repaired. The Kethari have over 400 vessels in their main fleet alone. And their allies? The Dralith have committed 200 ships to the war. Several smaller species have promised support." She paused. "Sir, the math does not favor us." Chen nodded slowly. He had known this would be the case. Humanity was young. Their space was small. Their technology was good but not exceptional. By every measure that the galaxy used, they should already be defeated. But the galaxy did not understand humans. "Show me Earth," Chen said. The display changed to show the planet below. But something was different. Bright lights covered the dark side of the world. Not cities, factories, thousands of new factories that had not existed a month ago. "Industrial output has increased by 200%, Wells said. "Every nation has converted to war production. Civilian vehicles are being rebuilt as military transports. Universities have shifted to weapons research. The population has volunteered for service at rates we have never seen before." Chen allowed himself a small smile. "And the Lazarus Protocol?" "Fully activated, sir." The Lazarus Protocol was humanity's greatest secret. For 100 years, ever since first contact with alien life, Earth's governments had been quietly preparing for the worst. Hidden shipyards had been built in asteroid belts. Weapons that were officially banned had been researched in secret laboratories. Plans had been made for a war that everyone hoped would never come. Now that war was here. "The Kethari think we are weak because we sought peace," Chen said. "They do not understand that peace was a choice. They do not know what we are capable of when we choose war instead." On the planet below, millions of humans worked without rest. Miners pulled ore from the ground. Factory workers built ships and weapons around the clock. Scientists who had once studied medicine now designed better ways to kill. Teachers became soldiers. Artists became engineers. The entire species had transformed in less than a month. This was the truth about humanity that the galaxy had never learned. For 10,000 years, humans had been fighting each other. War was woven into their history like threads in a tapestry. They had developed weapons of such terrible power that they could destroy their own world many times over. And yet they had survived. They had found ways to live with that power. Other species had known war, but none of them had loved it the way humans secretly did. None of them had built entire economies around it. None of them had turned killing into both an art and a science. The Kethari thought of war as a tool to be used when needed. For humans, war was a part of their soul. Chen turned to address his officers. The enemy believes this will be a short conflict. They believe we will collapse within months. They are wrong. We are going to show them something they have never seen before. He activated a galaxy-wide communication channel. His face appeared on screens across human space. In ships and stations, in colonies and bunkers, humans stopped what they were doing to listen. My name is Admiral Marcus Chen. By order of the United Earth Government, I have been given command of all military forces. I speak to you now not as your commander, but as a fellow human. He paused, letting his words sink in. 3 weeks ago, we sent our best and brightest to ask for peace. They murdered them. They killed Ambassador Vasquez while she held out her hand in friendship. They laughed at our pain and called us insects. His voice grew harder. They think they know what they have awakened. They are wrong. They have studied us from afar. They have read our history and seen our wars. But they do not understand what it means. They do not know what happens when humanity stops fighting itself and turns its eyes outward. In the factories, workers looked up at the screens and gripped their tools tighter. In the training camps, new soldiers listened with fire in their eyes. In the hospitals, doctors prepared for the wounded they knew would come. We did not start this war, but we will finish it. Not with anger, not with blind rage, but with the cold, careful, absolute determination that has defined our species since we first looked up at the stars and decided they would be ours. Chen looked directly into the camera. To the Kethari Overmind, if you are listening, I have a message for you. You called us insects. You said we crawled out of the mud. You are right. We did. We crawled out of the mud and we built cities. We built nations. We built weapons that could crack planets. We did all of this while fighting each other. His eyes narrowed. Imagine what we will do now that we are united against you. He cut the transmission. In the weeks that followed, reports began to reach the Kethari command. Human ship production had increased by factors they could not believe. New weapons were being tested. Soldiers were being trained by the millions. The entire human economy had shifted to a single purpose: war. The Kethari intelligence officers brought these reports to the Overmind. They showed charts and numbers and projections. They explained that humanity should not be able to do what they were doing. No species could mobilize this quickly. It was impossible. The Overmind dismissed their concerns. They are bluffing, it said. They are showing us shadows and smoke. When our fleet arrives, they will break like all the others. But some of the officers were not so sure. They had studied human history more closely. They had read about the wars humans fought among themselves. They had seen what happened when human nations decided to destroy each other, and they were afraid. One young officer dared to speak. What if they are not bluffing? What if the reports are true? The Overmind turned its black eyes on him. Then we will crush them with greater force. We have 400 ships. We have allies across the galaxy. What can they possibly do against us? The officer did not answer, but he thought of a human saying he had once read from one of their ancient generals. No plan survives first contact with the enemy. He wondered if the Overmind had any idea what was coming. Far away, in the cold darkness between stars, human ships began to move. Not toward the Kethari. Not yet. They moved in silence, in secret, to places the enemy did not expect. The war had not truly begun yet, but when it did, the galaxy would tremble. Commander Yuki Tanaka floated in the darkness of space, her small ship hidden in the shadow of an asteroid. She was 34 years old, with black hair cut short and eyes that missed nothing. Before the war, she had led rescue missions to save colonists from disasters. Now she led a very different kind of team. Her ship was called the Whisper. It was barely large enough for its crew of 8, painted black, and equipped with technology that made it nearly invisible to sensors. 20 more ships just like it waited nearby, their engines cold and silent. Target in range, her pilot said. Kethari supply convoy. 12 cargo ships. 2 escort vessels. Tanaka studied the display. The convoy was carrying food and fuel to a Kethari military base. Without those supplies, the base would starve in weeks. What about civilian ships? She asked. None detected, all military. Tanaka nodded. That was important. Admiral Chen had given strict orders. They were not at war with the Kethari people. They were at war with the Kethari military. Any soldier who harmed civilians would face justice. All ships. This is Ghost Lead. Operation begins in 30 seconds. Remember your training. Strike fast, strike hard, and disappear. No heroes. She watched the clock count down. When it reached 0, 21 small ships came alive at once. They shot out of the asteroid field like arrows from a bow, moving faster than anything the Kethari had ever seen. The escort vessels tried to respond. They turned their weapons toward the attackers, but human ships were already among the convoy, too close for the big guns to target. Small, precise weapons struck the cargo ships in exactly the right places. Fuel tanks exploded. Cargo bays opened to vacuum. Within 90 seconds, every supply ship was either destroyed or crippled. The escorts fired wildly, but they hit nothing. The human ships were already gone, vanishing back into the darkness as quickly as they had appeared. Tanaka allowed herself a small smile as the whisper slipped away. Ghost, lead to all ships. Good work. Proceed to secondary positions. This was Operation Ghostfire. And it was changing the war. The Kethari had expected humanity to meet them in open battle. Fleet against fleet. Numbers against numbers. That was how wars had always been fought in the galaxy. The side with more ships usually won. But humans did not fight like other species. In the weeks after Vareth 9, human special forces struck dozens of targets across Kethari space. Communication relays went silent. Fuel depots exploded. Military bases found their supplies cut off. None of the attacks were large enough to make the news. But together, they were bleeding the enemy dry. The Kethari command sent ships to hunt the attackers. They found nothing. Human vessels were too small, too fast, and too clever. They struck from shadows and disappeared before anyone could respond. One Kethari commander compared it to fighting smoke. But Ghostfire was only part of humanity's strategy. On the diplomatic front, Ambassador David Okonkwo was doing his own kind of fighting. He was a tall man with dark skin and white hair, and he walked with a slight limp from an injury he had received years ago. He had been a soldier before he became a diplomat. He understood both war and peace. 3 months after the massacre, Okonkwo appeared before the Neutral Assembly. This was a gathering of species that had refused to join either side in the conflict. They wanted no part in the war between humans and the hegemony. Okonkwo stood alone in the center of their chamber. He wore a simple black suit with no medals or symbols of rank. His only decoration was a small pin on his chest. It showed the face of Elena Vasquez. I come before you not to ask for help, he said. Humanity will fight its own battles. We do not need others to do our dying for us. The assembled aliens shifted in their seats. This was not what they had expected. I come to tell you the truth. 3 months ago, Ambassador Vasquez went to Vareth 9 with an offer of peace. She was willing to give up territory. She was willing to pay for crimes we did not commit. She was willing to do anything to avoid more death. He paused, letting his words hang in the air. The Kethari answered her kindness with murder. They had already decided to attack before the talks began. The peace conference was a trap. They used our hope against us. A Villani delegate raised one of its 4 hands. This is known. But what do you want from us? Nothing. Okonkwo shook his head. I want nothing from you. I only want you to see clearly. The Kethari do not believe in diplomacy. They do not believe in fair dealing. They believe only in power. Today they attack humans. Tomorrow, when humans are gone, they will turn their eyes to you. The hegemony has been a stable presence for centuries, another delegate said. They have never threatened neutral species. They had never needed to. They were satisfied with their territory. But they attacked us without cause. What happens when they decide they want more? What happens when they look at your worlds and your resources and decide that conquest is easier than trade? No one answered. Humanity is not asking you to fight. We are only asking you to think. Think about what kind of galaxy you want to live in. A galaxy where peace talks are traps, a galaxy where the strong take what they want from the weak, or a galaxy where agreements mean something. He looked around the chamber. We did not start this war. We will end it. Stand aside, or stand with them. That is your choice. But know this. When the war is over, we will remember who stood where. He turned and walked out of the chamber. In the weeks that followed, the neutral species began to pull away from the hegemony. They did not join humanity, but they stopped selling supplies to the Cathari. They closed their ports to hegemony ships. They watched and waited to see what would happen. The Draelith demanded that their allies honor their agreements, but the agreements said nothing about supporting an unprovoked war. One by one, the smaller species found reasons to stay neutral. Meanwhile, Ghostfire continued. Tanaka and her teams struck deeper into enemy territory. They destroyed shipyards and weapons factories. They cut communication lines that had stood for centuries. They spread fear wherever they went. The Cathari soldiers began to whisper about ghosts in the dark, about ships that appeared from nowhere and vanished like dreams, about an enemy they could not see, could not find, and could not stop. The Overmind ordered more ships to patrol, more sensors to scan the darkness. But humanity had learned to hide where no one would look. They moved through the spaces between stars like wolves through a forest, and they waited. In the Sol system, the human fleet grew larger every day. Ships that would have taken years to build were finished in months. Weapons that had been banned were brought out of storage and improved. Soldiers trained until they could fight in their sleep. Admiral Chen watched the reports from Ghostfire and the diplomatic front. Everything was going according to plan. The enemy was bleeding. Their allies were deserting them. Their confidence was turning to doubt. How much longer? Captain Wells asked him. Chen studied the star charts. The Cathari homeworld was marked in red. It was far away, deep in enemy territory. Getting there would require fighting through half the hegemony. Soon, he said. Let them grow weak. Let them grow afraid. Let them wonder what is coming for them. He turned to face his second in command. And then, we will show them exactly what happens when you make an enemy of humanity. In the darkness between stars, the human fleet continued to grow, and the galaxy began to understand that something terrible was coming. 6 months after the massacre at Vareth 9, the sky above Keth Prime turned black with ships. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Ironclad and watched his fleet emerge from faster-than-light travel. 300 human warships appeared in perfect formation. Behind them came support vessels, troop transports, and medical ships. It was the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled, and they had come for blood. All ships reporting ready, Admiral, Captain Wells said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with the same fire that filled every human heart that day. Chen looked at the planet below. Keth Prime was the heart of the hegemony. Billions of Cathari lived there. Their Overmind ruled from a great hive in the northern continent for 3,000 years. No enemy had threatened this world. Today, that would change. Enemy fleet strength? Chen asked. 900 combat vessels. They outnumber us 3-1. Wells pulled up the tactical display. Their orbital defense platforms are active. Ground-based weapons are charging. Good odds, Chen said quietly. A few officers looked at him with surprise. He did not explain. Humans had won battles against worse odds before. Their history was filled with stories of small forces defeating larger ones through courage, skill, and the simple refusal to give up. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. This is Admiral Chen. 6 months ago, we buried our friends and promised that their deaths would not be forgotten. Today, we keep that promise. Across the fleet, soldiers checked their weapons and pilots powered up their fighters. Engineers ran final tests on weapon systems. Doctors prepared for the wounded they knew would come. We are not here for conquest, Chen continued. We are not here to destroy the Cathari people. We are here to end their ability to make war. We are here to teach the galaxy that humanity will not be murdered while offering peace. He paused. Some of us will not survive this day, but what we do here will be remembered forever. Our children will tell stories of this battle, and they will say that when the galaxy tried to destroy us, we did not run. We did not hide. We came to our enemy's home and showed them what humanity truly is. He drew a deep breath. All ships, attack. The battle began. Human vessels surged forward in a great wave of steel and fire. The Kethari fleet moved to meet them. Space itself seemed to burn as thousands of weapons fired at once. Ships exploded. Fighters spun through the chaos like angry wasps. The darkness lit up with the light of 1,000 suns. The first minutes were brutal. Human ships fell to the overwhelming enemy numbers. But for every human vessel destroyed, 2 Kethari ships died. Human weapons were more accurate. Human pilots were more skilled. Human crews fought with a fury that the Kethari had never encountered, and when human ships were too damaged to fight, their crews did something the Kethari could not understand. The destroyer Vengeance was hit by 3 missiles. Its engines failed. Its weapons went offline. But instead of surrendering, its captain ordered full speed toward the nearest enemy carrier. The collision destroyed both ships. The frigate Morningstar was surrounded by enemy fighters. Instead of trying to escape, it flew directly into their formation, firing every weapon it had. It died, but it took 30 fighters with it. Again and again, humans chose death rather than defeat. They rammed crippled ships into enemy vessels. They ejected from destroyed fighters and fired hand weapons at passing enemies. They fought until their last breath and then kept fighting. The Kethari hive mind could not process this behavior. Their tactics were based on calculation, on logic, on survival. They could not understand an enemy that treated death as just another weapon. 4 hours into the battle, the human fleet broke through the first line of defense. Kethari ships fell back toward their orbital platforms. They thought the fixed defenses would stop the human advance. They were wrong. Commander Tanaka led her Ghost Fire teams in a lightning strike against the platforms. While the main fleet drew attention, her small ships slipped through the chaos and planted explosives on critical systems. One by one, the platforms went dark. Orbital defenses down, Tanaka reported. Path to the planet is clear. Chen allowed himself a grim smile. All ships. Second phase. Push them back to their homeworld. The human fleet advanced like a tide that could not be stopped. The Kethari fought desperately, but they were being pushed back toward their own planet. Ships fell on both sides. The space around Keth Prime filled with debris and the frozen bodies of the dead. 8 hours into the battle, the Overmind sent a message to Admiral Chen. "You cannot win," it said. "Even if you destroy our fleet, we have millions of soldiers on the surface. You will never take our world." Chen's reply was broadcast across all frequencies, so that every ship on both sides could hear. "I do not need to take your world. I only need to break your power." He turned to his tactical officer. "Target their military installations, shipyards, weapons factories, command centers. Leave the civilian areas untouched." "Sir, some of those targets are in populated areas. We might cause civilian casualties. Use precision weapons only. Take the time to aim carefully. I will not have it said that humanity won this war by murdering children." The hammerfall began. Human ships moved into orbit and opened fire. But not wildly. Not blindly. Each shot was calculated to destroy military targets while leaving everything else standing. Shipyards that had built warships for centuries were reduced to rubble. Weapons factories melted into slag. Military bases vanished in columns of fire. On the surface, the Kethari watched their war machine die. But their homes remained standing. Their schools were untouched. Their hospitals still worked. The Overmind demanded a final attack. It ordered every remaining ship to charge the human fleet in one last desperate assault. 11 hours after the battle began, the last Kethari warship fell silent. Chen opened a channel to the planet below. "This is Admiral Chen of the United Terran Fleet. Your fleet is destroyed. Your defenses are gone. Your ability to make war has ended." He paused to let his words sink in. "I offer you now what you refused to give us. A chance to surrender. A chance to end this without more death. Your people are not our enemy. Your Overmind is. Give us the Overmind, and this war is over." For a long moment, there was no response. Then the Overmind's voice came through the speakers. It was no longer confident, no longer proud. But it was still defiant. "You think this is victory? You have won one battle. We will rebuild. We will return. And when we do, we will wipe your species from existence." Chen shook his head slowly. "You still do not understand. We did not come here just to defeat you. We came here to show the galaxy what happens when you betray humanity's trust." He leaned forward. "You called us animals. You called us insects. You said we crawled out of the mud." His voice went cold. "You were right about one thing. We are animals. We are the wolves that hunted in the darkness while your ancestors were still hiding from the cold. We are the survivors, the fighters, the ones who never, ever give up. He straightened. You had one chance to make peace with us. You threw it away. Now you will live with the consequences. Your military is gone. Your allies have abandoned you. And every species in this galaxy now knows what happens when you make an enemy of humanity. The Overmind did not respond. In the ruins of the HFY war machine, the battle was finally over. Humanity had won. But Admiral Chen did not celebrate. He looked out at the debris field where thousands of human ships had died. He thought of all the young men and women who would never go home. Begin rescue operations, he ordered quietly. Save everyone you can, human and HFY alike. Captain Wells looked at him with surprise. Sir, we came here to end a war, not to create monsters. Chen turned away from the window. We are better than they think we are. It is time we proved it. The rescue ships launched into the wreckage, and across the galaxy, species who had watched the battle in fear now watched with something else, wonder, and respect. 1 year after the massacre at Vareth 9, the galaxy gathered on a station called Unity Point. It floated in neutral space, far from any homeworld. Representatives from 47 species had come to witness the birth of something new. Ambassador David Okonkwo stood at the center of the great assembly hall. He wore the same simple black suit he had worn a year ago, with the same small pin showing Elena Vasquez's face, but everything else had changed. The HFY hegemony no longer existed. Not destroyed, but dismantled. Their military had been reduced to a small defense force. Their conquered territories had been freed. Their government had been restructured under galactic supervision, and the Overmind itself sat in chains before a tribunal of 12 species, waiting to answer for its crimes. Okonkwo looked around the chamber at the faces watching him. Some were old enemies. Some were new friends. All of them had learned something important in the past year. When I was young, Okonkwo began. My grandmother told me a story. She said that long ago humans lived in small tribes. We were weak. We had no claws, no fangs, no armor. Every day, we faced predators that should have destroyed us. He paused. But we survived. We survived because we learned to work together. We survived because we never stopped fighting. And we survived because we understood something that the predators did not. That mercy is not weakness. That showing kindness to the defeated is what separates civilization from savagery. He turned to face the HFY delegation. They were few in number now, their proud empire reduced to a single world. They looked smaller somehow, as if defeat had shrunk them. 1 year ago, your Overmind murdered our diplomats. It destroyed our colonies. It laughed at our pain and called us insects. Okonkwo's voice was steady, but there was iron beneath the words. Today, your Overmind faces justice. Today, your empire is gone. Today, you sit in this chamber not as conquerors, but as the conquered. The HFY representatives lowered their heads. We could have destroyed you. Okonkwo, let that truth hang in the air. After the Battle of Keth Prime, your world was defenseless. We could have burned your cities. We could have salted your fields. We could have ended your species forever. Many humans wanted exactly that. He shook his head. But we did not. We targeted only your military. We destroyed your ability to make war, but we left your people untouched. When the battle was over, our ships rescued your survivors alongside our own. Your wounded were treated in human hospitals. He looked around the chamber. This is who we are. This is what humanity offers the galaxy. Not conquest, not domination, but a simple promise. Treat us fairly, and we will be your greatest friends. Betray us, and we will be your worst nightmare. But even as your nightmare, we will not become monsters. A Vellani delegate rose. Ambassador Okonkwo, what do you propose for the future? What role will humanity play in galactic affairs? We propose a new order, Okonkwo said. Not one ruled by fear or force, but one built on mutual respect. A galaxy where peace talks mean something, where agreements are honored, where no species is attacked simply because they are young or different. He gestured to the assembled delegates. For 3,000 years, the hegemony dominated this region of space. They used their power to bully smaller species and crush anyone who challenged them. We have ended that, but we did not end it to take their place. We ended it to create something better. The assembly murmured with interest. Today, I ask you to join us in creating the Galactic Accord, a true alliance of equals. Every species will have a voice, every species will have rights, and every species will share in the responsibility of keeping the peace. And who will enforce this peace? Another delegate asked. Okonkwo smiled. It was a tired smile, but genuine. We all will. Together. No single species will dominate. No single species will be above the law. The strength of the Accord will be its unity, not its weapons. The voting took 3 hours. One by one, species that had watched humanity from afar came forward to add their voices to the new order. The Vellani, who valued peace above all else. The Sorathi, who had always believed in cooperation. The Telknar, who had remained neutral for centuries but now saw a chance for something better. Even some species who had supported the hegemony voted yes. They had seen what happened to those who opposed humanity. But more than that, they had seen how humanity treated the defeated. They had expected vengeance and received mercy instead. When the final vote was counted, 43 species had agreed to join the Galactic Accord. Only 4 abstained, and none voted against. The Accord was born. In the corner of the chamber, the former Overmind watched with its dark eyes. It said nothing. What was there to say? Its empire was gone. Its power was broken, and the species it had dismissed as insects now stood at the center of a new galactic order. Later that day, the tribunal delivered its verdict. The Overmind was found guilty of crimes against sentient life. It would spend the rest of its existence in a prison built specifically for it, watched by guards from a dozen species. It would never again command armies or order attacks. It would never again threaten anyone. As they led the Overmind away, it passed by Ambassador Okonkwo. For a moment, their eyes met. You think you have won, the Overmind said. Its voice was quiet, almost broken. But you have only delayed the inevitable. Another enemy will rise, another war will come, and then you will see that mercy is weakness after all. Okonkwo shook his head slowly. You still do not understand. Mercy is not weakness. Mercy is strength that does not need to prove itself. Mercy is what separates those who deserve power from those who simply take it. He leaned closer. You asked me once what humans become when you take everything from us. I will tell you now. We become whatever we need to be. Warriors when war is needed, builders when peace returns. And yes, we become merciful, even to those who showed us none. He straightened. That is why we won. Not because we were stronger, not because we were more ruthless. We won because we fought for something worth fighting for, and we knew when to stop fighting. The guards led the Overmind away. It did not look back. That night, the delegates gathered for a celebration. But many humans did not join the festivities. They stood apart, looking at the stars, thinking of friends who would never see this day. Admiral Chen was among them. He had resigned his commission the day after the war ended. He had done what was necessary, but he took no joy in it. Too many good people had died under his command. Commander Tanaka found him standing alone by a window. It is over, she said softly. Is it? Chen did not turn around. The hegemony is gone, but the galaxy is still full of species who think might makes right. Others will test us. Others will try to hurt us. And we will face them when they come. Tanaka stood beside him. That is what humans do. We survive. We adapt. We keep fighting until the fighting is done. Chen finally smiled. It was a small smile, touched with sadness. Elena Vasquez believed that diplomacy could solve anything. She died believing that. Sometimes I wonder if she was right. She was right to try, Tanaka said. And we were right to finish what she could not. There is no contradiction. Peace must be fought for. Justice must be enforced. And sometimes, the only way to end a war is to win it. Chen nodded slowly. He turned back to the celebration, where humans and aliens mingled freely, for perhaps the first time in history. Look at them, he said. A year ago, half of those species would not even speak to us. Now they toast our friendship. Fear and respect can look similar from a distance. Tanaka observed. True, but respect can grow into something more. Fear only breeds resentment. Chen turned away from the window. We have a chance to build something new, something better than what came before. Let us not waste it. They walked together toward the celebration, leaving the darkness behind. Far away, in human space, Cities that had been built for war began to transform back into places of peace. Factories that had made weapons now made tools. Soldiers returned home to families who had waited in fear and now waited no more. The scars of war remained. They would remain for generations. But beneath the scars, something new was growing. Hope, and across the galaxy, species who had once looked down on humanity now looked up at the stars with different eyes. They told their children stories about the young species that had refused to die, the species that had been offered destruction and responded with fury, the species that had won a war and then showed mercy to the defeated. Some called them dangerous, some called them noble, some called them both, but everyone, without exception, called them humans, and everyone, without exception, knew better than to threaten them again. In the great halls of Unity Point, the first article of the Galactic Accord was carved into stone for all eternity. Let this stand as a reminder to all who come after. Humanity sought peace. They were answered with war. They responded with fire. And when the fire was spent, they built from the ashes a galaxy where peace might finally mean something. Let no species forget the lesson of the Ketharai, that those who mistake kindness for weakness will learn their error in the flames. And let no species forget the promise of humanity, that the hand offered in friendship will always be open, but the hand raised in war will never stop until victory is complete. The war was over. The future had begun.